Morning, everyone. Please take your seats.
That's the school teacher in him.
Dan Ifkowitz just, he had a funny comment for me. That's all I'm going to say. Good morning. Thank you for coming. February 20th, Coffee and Conversation for this month. Obviously, when we have Coffee and Conversation, we usually don't have the podium up here for introductory purposes, and we're off and running. But just for this one little slice of information, I would like to have my notebook, so therefore I would like to have the podium. But I promise, in 90 seconds, we'll have standard Coffee and Conversation, and Steve Lindsay has volunteered to be our runner today. So if you have any questions, raise your hand. Steve will be around with the microphone, and we'll take it from there. We have our regular cast of characters I see here. Only one missing. Al Vega is with his daughter at Liberty University. She's taking a look at the place, seeing if she likes it. So he is down in, where? I know it's in Virginia. Where?
Lynchburg, Virginia.
Okay, got it. So no Al today, but we got everyone else, and hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions and field any concerns well. So that's the goal. For this, though, and like I said, this is going to be very brief, but I want to start with an acknowledgement and some information. An acknowledgement. It has been cold. Bills have been high. I'm going to start with those two acknowledgments. That neither of those two things are unique to Frederick. But I would like to provide some data and some information for you all related to heating systems and heating bills. We have approximately, I think it's 99 or 100 cottages on campus. I always get the number wrong. Let's just say 100. Those cottages, as you know, are responsible for electric bills, and that's where the heating comes into play. And, we all have unique systems, as you know, different houses, different systems, etc. But here are some numbers that I would like to share with you all. Since December 1st, so 11 plus weeks, we have received 67 total calls related to heating systems in cottages. In only 39 households. So 39 households have raised their hand and said, I have an issue with my heating system. Can you please take a look at it? In those 39 households, 18 of those we found after initial or secondary or tertiary review, there was no issue with the heating system. It was working properly. Of the remaining 21, we have a couple of different things in play. 2 systems have been replaced. 6 are currently waiting for parts. Something needs to be fixed, we're waiting for a part. There are 6 outstanding items at the moment. For the others, we have some blower motors that have been fixed. We have some thermostats that have been replaced. We have some glycol that has been filled. Different varying degrees of what goes on. In terms of asking questions and looking for deep dives into heating bills, everyone recalls, maybe you don't, but perhaps you do. In November, in December, in January, we have shared, related to heating bills specifically, what we want you to do is call us, myself or Al, share with us your heating bill, most likely the recent one, and if possible, the one from the previous year, so we can do some comparison. And we will look and we will see if there is an issue that we can work on related to your bill. Of the 100 homes that we had discussed so far in this 11-week period of time, we have received 3 bills. 3. We're working with 2 residents at the moment And for one resident, that particular individual signed up for a different energy supplier, and that accounted for the significant increase in their bill. So they went with someone other than PECO. They had a great introductory rate, and then all of a sudden we looked and their fees went skyrocketed, and it was related just to, we could account for almost all of it, just for that energy supplier. So why am I sharing this? Again, we know that heating bills can be a frustration. We also know that there are issues that arise from time to time in all of our houses, and we are here to fix them. And we are here to do our best with the system and work with you to get it fixed as well as we can. We are also here if you have an individual concern about your unit and your bill. But you have to work with us so that we can understand it best, so that we can help understand and fix. So that's what I wanted to share with you all before we get started. Sound right? Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we will open it up for questions, comments, thoughts, observations, if anyone wants to lead us off.
I have a simple question. Is when you come here, we look at things that involve us pertaining to Garden Spot. That's benevolent fund, that's skilled care. The other things we can cover in town hall. What I think some residents would appreciate is when you come, you would start out by just giving us a Garden Spot update on where the growth is, what's happening. Cedarwood, look it into assisted living, some factors like that, rather than just go to questions. So we would appreciate an update on the activities from Garden Spot's viewpoint. Thank you.
Sure, thank you for that. Yeah, we don't want to kind of spend the whole time talking about us, but as it relates, I think that's really, really helpful. So let me give a few observations and thoughts, and Steve Muller can jump in with some things that I miss. So we're really busy working on a number of different projects right now. As you know, part of that is expansion here on this campus. And so we're getting ready to kick off some work to relocate the body shop, move into some new spaces there. A lot of work looking at assisted living, skilled nursing, what's the future, and we're still evaluating a lot of that. We're tracking down every possible lead so that when we come to you with the final solution, we'll be able to say, we have exhausted all the possibilities, and this is what we believe to be the best solution for Frederick living at the time. So spending time on that. Working on getting ready to begin the approval process with the township on new apartments on the campus and some of the related improvements that will occur along with that. So there's a lot of that going on here. At Garden Spot Village in New Holland, we're also exploring an expansion opportunity there. Steve Muller and I just met with the township supervisors there to introduce them to the plan for that growth project. And so we're kind of moving forward with some of that. Doing a little bit of renovation on skilled nursing at that location and creating some more personal care suites in some space that we had when we relocated our memory support program to a new location on our campus there. In addition to that, we are getting ready to open a new building in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and that is kind of a really neat project. It's an adaptive reuse is what the architects call it. Basically, we're refurbishing an existing office building kind of just off of Front Street in Harrisburg. If you have been down that way, right across from the courthouse, Just some beautiful views looking out over the river. It's walking distance to City Island, where the minor league baseball park is located, and kind of all of the areas there, and then there's the symphony and the different theater opportunities and different things going on just right around the area there in Harrisburg. That is a rental, independent living only program. So it's just 39 apartments in an 8-story building. Kind of a neat old building. Was originally built in the 1890s as the Board of Trade building, which was the precursor to the Chamber of Commerce. And then in the 1910s, they did a renovation on it. They stripped off, it was originally a French provincial style with all kinds of fancy ornamentation on the outside. They stripped all that off, added 5 stories on the top, and then turned it into an Art Deco kind of building, which would have been in vogue there in the teens. So anyway, it's getting a new purpose, a new life, and we're working kind of a partnership with a nonprofit developer in Harrisburg, and really excited about the possibilities of that. It'll bring a new style of living, new opportunities for folks to experience Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That is kind of an overview of some of those projects that are going on right now. As we look at that, we have a big project that encompasses all of our campuses, just looking at how we manage data. We have lots of different disparate systems, computer systems and those kind of things. And so we have a group that we're working with to help form what they call a data lake, which is you pull all the data in from all those systems, and then you develop ways to mine that, to use that, to create a little bit more nimble business systems as you go through. So we'll be able to have dashboards that give us kind of up-to-the-minute information on a whole variety of different areas. We'll be able to pull from all those different systems and really have accurate business information to help us make more efficient decisions and to be more efficient in our operations. So that's a big project, big initiative. And I think Andrew was recently up here meeting with the leadership team at Frederick Living, kind of getting their input on what KPIs they think would be most appropriate and helpful for them. So that's kind of our leaning into this new world of data and artificial intelligence and all the other things that go along with that. How do we capture some of that and use it in order to operate a little bit more efficiently, a little bit more lean as we go forward, and find areas where we have opportunities for improvement, and then be able to put those into play. Anything else? I think that's probably a quick overview of some of the highlights of things that are going on right now.
I'm just curious, once we get the new apartments up and have people in there, this room often gets full with events that we have. Is there any thought given to how we're going to adjust, or, I mean, we can't just cram people in here like sardines. Is there any thought given to making adjustments for the people that are going to be joining us?
So I can start. So when we take a look at new development on campus, new independent living, bringing new residents onto campus, that affords us the opportunity to explore all spaces, essentially, all amenity spaces on campus. That's why we think it's a good idea to begin this process with something like a new PT, OT, body shop space in the old CK1 and PT space. In addition, as part of a larger master plan, if you will, we are examining space between the entrance of Magnolia House, right where the reception sits, following the main street all the way over to where those bistro doors are, all the way at the far end, to understand what makes sense for residents now, for what makes sense for residents in the future as well. So those questions like that, like what makes sense for the auditorium, what makes sense for the bistro, what makes sense for, you know, what the body shop space used to be, or is now and will be used to be. Those are questions that are coming up, but you know, your idea and thinking match where our questions are leading as well.
Morning. As you look forward, this is a two-part question. You came here with some ideas of specialty type apartment with parking, adding on this apartment, possibility of some sort of hybrids of independent living. So you must have some trends that you've been looking at. So the first trend to look at is people moving up in age and where they end up. Okay, so what is the trend as far as assisted living and nursing home? Okay, and the second part is, can you give us an idea of where you think you might be in 6 to 8 months as to where you would start getting permission through the township, and what would you start with? What kind of time span is that? The next phase, the next phase. Can you give us some roughly idea? I know you can't pinpoint it, but the trends are important too, just in building independent and all the other kind of building that goes on. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. Trends are really important as we look at these issues and as we plan for the future, because what we don't want to do is build facilities and put a ton of money into those and then have them be antiquated in just a few years. And so one of the things that we're looking at is that question of where are people going to receive care and services in the future. So our commitment is to provide care for folks at Frederick Living the rest of your life. And then the question is, how do we do that best? One of the things we know is that utilization of skilled nursing is decreasing over the course of time and across the country. Lengths of stay are getting shorter. People are finding alternative places to do that. And as we study that trend around the country, the utilization of assisted living has become much more prominent because they have found through experience that you can provide long-term care services similar to what was previously provided in a nursing home environment, in an assisted living environment with the similar quality of care, but much less expense. And that has to do with all the regulatory overlays that the government builds into skilled nursing. We literally have positions that the government has forced us to add on in skilled nursing that have no impact on resident care and just provide documentation and substantiation for all the regulations that need to be put into place. And so that's been a trend that the government has had over the last 10, 15 years, where they've just added in new requirements and new requirements and new requirements without increasing compensation to cover those. And so we're at a place where Medicaid pays about 50% of the cost of providing care to somebody. And that's just not sustainable. In other states, what they've done is moved more aggressively into assisted living. And so, that opportunity to continue to provide long-term care in an assisted living, licensed assisted living environment that feels a little more residential and cares for people well is the trend that things are going in. So we see that really moving in that direction, and we have the opportunity here to kind of leapfrog that a little bit and get ahead of it. So what you will see, I'm confident, is that in the future we will flip the license from personal care to assisted living. That will give us an opportunity to provide a broader range of services in that environment. So Magnolia will end up with an assisted living license. Skilled nursing, we're still frankly evaluating, should we have, do we need to have skilled nursing on the campus? And how would we handle those occasions where somebody would need that service if we don't? And so we're working through that. Is it worth building a building to the tune of, $15 million or more for the few occasions, or can we look ahead and say, well, we think these services are actually going to be able to be provided in people's homes or in assisted living? And that is the trend. Even in hospitals, I'm on the board of WellSpan, which is a regional healthcare system in central Pennsylvania. And they're moving aggressively to at-home hospital at home models, where instead of people going into the hospital to receive acute hospital care, they'll get that in their homes with people coming and visiting and providing that level of service. Doesn't work in everything. You're not going to get surgery on the dining room table, but they have found real success and decreased cost in a number of different areas. And so things are kind of gradually moving in those directions. How do we look ahead and anticipate that services will be provided for folks as we go forward? That's kind of what we're thinking. We're still doing some evaluation. We hope to be able to bring that process to a conclusion probably a little later this summer maybe, and have a final determination. So the advantage we have is the Department of Health at Pennsylvania has not rushed us into this. So we're in temporary occupancy right now, and they have given us the latitude, fortunately, to work through some of these questions. Frankly, I think there's an encouragement on the part of the state to look hard at assisted living and to get out in front of that, because that's where they're steering the ship as time goes forward. So that's kind of the healthcare side of that. And then in terms of the township and approvals and the process there, we brought in a construction management group that's working with us, and they're kind of getting all the ducks in a row so that we can prepare to go to the township. I don't know that we have a definitive time frame on when we approach that.
Yeah, we don't have a date where we can say, okay, we're going to submit our plans by X date. We're still doing a little bit of extra work related to market feasibility. We're doing a little bit of extra work related to what some costs could be. But yeah, that major step, we don't have a time frame on it yet.
I'll share one thought in the background regarding that and the approvals for it and things. We actually had an approved plan here at Frederick Living pre-pandemic. So that was 2018, 2019, that kind of a thing. And even just based on that, we know that there's a willingness on behalf of the township. Now, there's different leadership at the township. Mike has done a phenomenal job in making good relational inroads with the township that way. So that sets the stage for us to have good conversations with them. If they see us calling and they pick up the phone to have a conversation, that's a really good thing. So Mike's done really well with that. And then the construction manager that we're using, they do a great job of providing context for the whole thing. One of the challenges that we have is sort of getting the cart before the horse. We deal with that a lot out in Lancaster County, and it's here as well. You don't want to talk to the wrong person or the wrong entity first, and then, ooh, they found out, but we didn't find out, and then somebody gets offended and all the rest of that. So there's some relational management to those kinds of things in the background. But all of those background indicators are really good that the township's going to be willing to work with us. We already did have an approved plan in the past. This plan is actually smaller, I think, and more and simpler than the plan that was approved about 7-8 years ago, that kind of thing. So.
But if the underlying part of that question is it feels like it's dragging along and we're not seeing things happen, yeah, I get that. It kind of feels like that to us too as we go through.
Part of that is the amount of other buildings that are starting to pop up all over the place. And you look at the trend of people our ages or younger people that are moving into our ages, is that trend still moving in the direction they want to move into this kind of facility?
Yeah, the follow-up question was, as we look at demographic trends, are we have we missed the curve or missed the boat on that? Are there too many other buildings that are being built and we're not going to have a market when we get built? And the short answer to that is no. Everything we're hearing is, I forget the exact number that we need to have built.
I get this one.
Okay.
I love being able to share this one. This is a very interesting stat. So we were at a conference a couple of months ago in Boston for Leading Age, our national organization. And at one of, some things stick with you sometimes, right? So we were in a conference room, and the individual was sharing a significant amount of data and information. But as it relates to independent living, or senior living, he called it. So that was all aspects, assisted living, independent living. They picked out a year, maybe it was 2013 or 2014, when the most senior living units across the country were built. And what this gentleman shared was, in order to meet future demand, we, as an industry, will have to build twice as much as that major year every year for the next 20 years just to keep up with the amount of individuals who will age into that group. So, is that exactly what we will have to do? Here at Frederick Living, no, we're not going to be able to do that. But that nationally compares in Pennsylvania, and it does compare in our market. So, to Steve's point, have we missed the curve or missed the boat? That is not something that we're very concerned about, no.
Yeah, it's a crazy number. It's like 500,000 units a year for the next 20 or 30 years, because we're on the cusp of this demographic curve as those of us who are baby boomers continue to age, that just goes up dramatically. So it goes up really steeply up to about 2055, and then it levels out, and it has just a slight dip, and then it'll actually increase again after that. So part of the concern, we had always heard that, you've got this kind of pig in a python sort of thing that's moving through with baby boomers, and when they're gone, it's going to drop off. And what's going to happen to all of this construction that was built? Well, if you look at the demographics and the current trends and the experts who study all those things, they say, no, there'll be a slight moderation out around 2060 to 2070, but then that actually increases again after that. And it's a kind of a mind-boggling approach. Now, the other part of that is, will there be young people to staff all of those facilities in the future? That's an ongoing question, and one that the folks who work in robotics are working really, really hard to try and figure out how to add in robotic assistance into lots of different areas. So I'll work right down the line here.
Okay, I'm responsible for the library, and somebody a couple of weeks ago put a carton of books in the library for me to discard. You just can't do that. You can't just bring books into the library for other people to dispose of. If I can't get rid of it, then it becomes Emily's problem, and we certainly don't want to add more to her. If you want to donate 2 or 3 books, call me. Please do not leave me packages in the corner. Thank you.
Best of intentions with unintended consequences, I'm sure.
I don't know if this makes sense, but in new construction, have you dissected CCRC as compared with independent living? Are more CC and RCs going to be built, or are there going to be more independent living going to be built? If you look at that curve, has that been looked at?
It has.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it has, and it's both. So there's going to be more independent living built significantly, and more CCRC. So the conferences that we attend, the experts who are kind of projecting all these things said, in fact, they were addressing nonprofit retirement communities, and they said, you guys have to get busy building this stuff, or the country's going to be at risk of not being able to provide the care in the future. So that the model, the continuing care retirement community model, is still viable and it's still attractive in the market, and people are still looking to that level. And it tends to be the planners, right? Like probably just about everybody in this room. The folks who are thinking, okay, I don't want to end up in a crisis when I need skilled nursing or when I get out of the hospital. I want to be in an environment where all of those contingencies are taken care of ahead of time. And so those planners are still looking for that model and still find it attractive and are looking to move in. So.
Do you think people still look at it that way?
Do I think people still look at it that way? Yes. And the challenge, let me put a caveat to that. The challenge is, and especially with the cost of new construction, can we continue to keep it as affordable as possible as we look at those things? So part of the slow process that Mike alluded to is going through all of those plans and all of those documents with a fine-tooth comb, saying, can we squeeze any dollars out of this project and still have it be a really good project? Are there areas where there's, unnecessary cost related to that? And so the ultimate goal is to continue to bring an apartment building to the market in a way that's as affordable as possible. And then the other part of that at the same time is affordability has changed, because real estate values have gone up really dramatically. And the opportunity to sell your home and roll that into an entrance fee means that the price point of that is significantly higher. And the reason for that is construction costs have gone up so much higher. And so, we kind of follow that trend. We know that a new apartment building here is going to boggle your minds compared to what you paid to move in. But that's the cost of new construction. And people who are interested in moving there will look at their home current value and say, oh, yeah, I can sell my home and I can roll that into an entrance fee in that way. So it all kind of builds and builds and builds. But the short answer is yes. Every indication is people still see retirement community as a benefit. And it's not just the housing and it's not just the care, but it's the sense of connectedness and community that you all share. So, one of the things to keep in mind is that loneliness has become an epidemic in our country. People don't have community any longer in many parts of our country. And so that loneliness leads to depression, that leads to health issues, that leads to early death. And one of the benefits that we have is you move into Frederick Living and you've got this community of people that you can share life with and share experiences with. And it makes such a difference. And I think increasingly people are looking at that going, yeah, there's something kind of neat about that.
This is still on construction. I know we're watching our costs, but please make sure we have an independent project manager to check what subcontractors are doing, and whoever's responsibility it is, please have somebody idiot-proof the construction diagrams. I can't tell you how many times I've seen or heard of they had to actually cut in a wall to get what they needed to be repaired. And I have no idea what you're going to do in the cottages, if the wells ever go out, because they're all under the cement foundation of the house. So please, I know it's more money, but you got to do it.
We hear you and we've done it. So we have a great group that's working with us on that and is doing just that, kind of going through all of those plans and all of those things that the architect has developed. I remember, a side note, retirement community I visited a bunch of years ago. And we're walking through brand new facilities, brand new buildings, and their CEO stopped and he pointed and he said, "You see that stair tower?" He said, "Where do you think that goes?" I said, "I have no idea." He goes, "I don't know either. It goes nowhere." we built a whole stair tower that doesn't go anywhere because the architect had it on the plans, the construction company never questioned it, and so it just got built and added expense. So that cost of that construction management group on the front end hopefully will help us to not have any stair towers that don't go anywhere or any of those situations.
Many of the problems that have been seen in the Meadows are due exactly to that. Poor planning, either they didn't do it properly in the diagrams for the construction crew, or it just wasn't installed the way it should be. And that expense that we're looking at and have been looking at is the result of that.
Yeah, we talk about construction costs and life cycle costs, right? So if you look at the life cycle cost, you might save a few dollars on the front end, but the life cycle cost, and we're in it for the long run. We're not a for-profit company that's going to flip it and sell it to a new owner in 8 years. Steve and I were just talking about that on the way up. And so we want to make sure that we're making good decisions for the long term.
This is changing the subject, but on the online directory, the searchable directory, I cannot find our staff. There's just Garden Spot staff. And another related question is when our staff call me, I get Garden Spot Village as the caller, which is really confusing because it would be nice if it said Frederick Living or had the staff member's name.
Do you have anything, Emily, related to the online directory? That's a long walk for a no, if that's what I called you up for. I'm sorry.
Judy, I might have to check your phone out to see what you're seeing. You should be able to type it, like when you go to the directory, you can pick team members or residents or that, and then type in a name.
Not for here, only for Garden Spot.
Yeah, there's a little, hang on. When you go to directory, what I have on my phone is just, it says Frederick Living, or it says which campus. So you can choose from the different campuses. If you choose Frederick Living and then hit confirm, and then, oh, I didn't hit it.
That is among the choices.
And then hit the,
Directory comes up.
okay. Well, we'll look into that with you and make sure, because it should certainly be there. Yeah.
Yeah, Judy, Emily will be able to help you out with that. So
We don't want to
hopefully
steer you the wrong direction.
And as far as your other question goes, I can have a conversation with our group from IT. It might be because we pay our bills a certain way that they come up Garden Spot communities. But if there's any flexibility, we can investigate that.
I knew there was another hand back here. I saw out of the corner of my eye. Thank you.
What's the difference between the personal care units and assisted living units? And did you have a question too? Oh,
It's a different type of license. So both are licensed by the Department of Human Services, and the main differentiator is the amount of care that you can provide in those settings. So the building itself wouldn't necessarily change. It would still be Magnolia House. But the amount of care and the not severity, but the nature of care that you can provide in an assisted living setting is much more significant than a personal care setting. In personal care, you have a certain type of resident that you can care for up to a certain degree, and then they have to move out of that setting. In assisted living, that ability to care for an individual is much greater. So that's the main difference in those two types of settings. So it's a license change, but it enables that setting to really care for an individual in a much more comprehensive way.
Yeah, it comes along with a little bit different regulation structure and a little different requirements in terms of that level of oversight, but it's still, as Mike said, it allows for a much broader range of services to be provided. It's interesting in Pennsylvania, this is probably, I don't know, 15 years ago, our folks in Harrisburg saw these changes across the country, moving to assisted living, and assisted living really kind of filling the gap. And so they said, oh, we should do this too. And so they started a work group, and they ended up with assisted living regulations. And the idea originally was that they would discontinue personal care and create a new licensure level for assisted living. Well, they got partway into that project, and then they just kind of stopped. And so we now have personal care and assisted living and skilled nursing, and it just creates confusion, quite frankly. But it's just a different level of licensure with a different level of care that's able to be provided there. Good question. Isn't there more reimbursement? Yeah, and that's the key. Thank you for pointing that out. The idea is, in other states that have done this, Medicaid dollars can be moved out of skilled nursing and into assisted living to care for people who've run out of funds. And so what they have done successfully is lowered the cost of Medicare or Medicaid to the state by being able to shift those dollars to follow the resident into the environment they prefer to be in, and to pay for those more successfully. So again, in the state of Pennsylvania, we just can't quite get over the hurdle. So they're just starting now with the managed care companies that are providing Medicaid. They're looking at Medicaid reimbursement in assisted living as a possibility. No Medicaid reimbursement in personal care. You're absolutely right. So that's all private pay forever, but the hope and what we're exploring is not just are they going to provide some Medicaid dollars in assisted living, but are they going to provide enough dollars to warrant the cost of the care provided there? So that's the hope.
In the nonprofit status versus for-profit, one of the pluses most nonprofits have is we have land already to build on, which does bring down costs. I would assume, right? And it could be significant based on where you put a piece of land and how much you're going to pay for it. So how does that play in? Have you looked at that? How much is that saving us?
Oh, I've seen in different parts of the country where land costs for land that you could build, a retirement community on are everything from hundreds of thousands of dollars an acre to $1 million an acre in some area. I'm not sure what the cost of land is here. It's significant. So yes, you're absolutely right. Having land to build on without having to purchase it gives us a leg up in terms of being able to provide that.
I think Lou touched upon what I was going to answer. Eventually, you're going to run out of space here. You won't be able to build. So the cost of running the operation will be based on the residents. Is there any way you could do something like you were doing at Garden Spot where you went to Harrisburg? I mean, could we go to Zieglerville, or could we go to Boyertown and look at something there? Maybe Walnut Woods will declare bankruptcy and we can grab that building. Thank you.
Dan, before Steve answers, these are questions that we have been asking as an organization for a very long time. And questions like that and concerns like that, right, genuine concerns, are a major reason why we leaned toward and then went toward affiliating, with a larger organization that has a wider reach and that is capable of helping us take things in that particular direction. So I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're absolutely right. Size and scale matter. And the larger an organization that we developed while not losing our values and our personal touch enables us to weather some of the storms that smaller organizations aren't going to be able to weather. It enables us to get some efficiencies that smaller organizations can't get. And so, yes, the short answer is we are looking at other opportunities as they present themselves and as they make sense. One of the things that we don't want to do is kind of get too far out over our skis with new projects that we're not taking care of the projects that are already here. And so, you know, you see that all the time with organizations that just go on a tear expanding, and then all of a sudden they have to retract because they got too big too fast and they're falling short on their current obligations.
In economics, it's the law of diminishing returns.
The law of diminishing returns, yes. All right, good conversation, thank you. Thank you for leading it off and giving us that platform. Good discussion, and it just helps when we're all thinking about these things. You know, there is wisdom in the Council of Elders, and so we appreciate lots of folks thinking about this along with us and poking at it a little bit to see if we've thought about all the right stuff, because that's helpful. And it ends up with a better organization and better outcomes. So, yes.
I just find it interesting that some of these meetings, almost the whole meeting was complaining about the food and the bistro and that. We haven't had one question, which I think is very positive over there. I think the changes, the personnel, the personalities that have been brought in. I just want to tell a little story. Nathaniel, that we all know in the dining room, he came to our hymn sing last week. He pulled the podium up. He spoke and he said how he was adopted from Russia. And he told us, and he said he picked a song that was his grandmother's favorite. He didn't have to do that, but it just was a bright spot. So I think this is very good that there's been no questions for them.
Absolutely. I don't think any of you guys are too disappointed if you come and don't get grilled, right?
I think it's their names.
That could be it. That could be it.
It matches mine.
You get enough Lou's in the room, and
Lou,
good
and
things are gonna
Louisa,
happen.
right?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and thank you for recognizing it. There, as you might imagine, there's a lot going on and a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes in order to make,
Positive changes.
and a lot of positive changes that come through in the end. So we always describe it, you know, like the duck on the surface. It looks like it's just sort of floating along, but if you look underneath the water, those legs are paddling like mad. So a lot of legs have been paddling like mad here in the last few months. So.
And some interesting things to come, you know, maybe we'll share at the next town hall meeting sort of thing. You know, some different chef stages, some different outdoor items. So a lot of good things coming our way.
Okay, well, maybe we'll just end on that positive note. Thank you all for coming. Just appreciate your time and appreciate your input and the questions. Thank you.